Welcome to the Steve and Cimino Says Boom Show, hosted by the Pops XP, issue number 21.
Boom!
Hey everyone, welcome to Pop XP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the Pop XP channel.
Hello, welcome everybody to issue 21 of the Steve and Cimino Says Boom Show on the Pop XP network. Ooh, feeling big and bad. Niall, tell them what's up.
I'll tell you what's up, and we got another exciting episode. That's what's up, John. That's what's up, Steve. It's going to be amazing. I'm here to learn because, I was telling you guys, I sit here, I'm engineering for you, but then I get caught. I'm watching you guys, right? And I'm absorbing. I'm becoming a Hulk, like a huge Hulk fan and a Thor fan. And the cosmic rays are blasting out of my fingertips. It's unbelievable. And I think everyone that's watching these, they're absorbing all your guys' knowledge. And another thing they need to do is make sure to look below, click that subscribe button, and smash that bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content like Steve and Cimino Says Boom Show. So, gentlemen, please take it away.
Well, who's going to take it away today is the big guy over here. And because I'm a little spazzy, I'm a little all over the place, but Steve is very succinct and very analytical and very clear and concise in his words. So I'm going to sit back, shut my mouth, and Steve's going to take it away because he's got something special. And I think it has something to do with Mighty Mystic Mjolnir, I think.
Yes. Again, obviously, Niall, if you're getting into the Hulk right now, we're going to refresh your Thor knowledge. And we're going to talk about an issue that showcases maturity. We're going to talk about Thor 136. Okay.
Ooh.
It's 1967. Okay. And the funny thing is that when I first put my Thor run together back in the mid-1990s, I was reading the stuff and I sort of skipped over this issue. I read it, but it didn't have much of an effect on me. I read it, and carried on. But because before that, you got the High Evolutionary, and then you have the Regilian colonizers. There's a lot going on. And then, after that, you have the coming of the enchanters. There's massive stuff going on. However, about 10 years ago, I reread my run. And out of all of the issues, this is the issue that I just couldn't believe the magnificence of it. And the thing was, I didn't get it the first time because I wasn't mature enough.
Wow.
After I had read issue 136, after going through life, the weight of this issue impacted me tremendously. Now, over the recent years, when it comes to a comic convention or in the store, and someone would say, hey, what's a great Thor story? I would always point them to this story. It's one issue, 16 pages. It's not a multi-cosmic epic. You don't need 95 issues. You don't need to have 25 years worth of knowledge. All you need to do is enjoy a good story. So I've been pushing this story for a long time, issue 136. And in recent months, because of this new film that we've got coming out, Thor, Love and Thunder, this issue has turned up on people's back issue lists, want this, and they're asking me, and I have been torturing them viciously. Obviously, Thor, Love and Thunder, Jane Foster, she's going to become Thor. She's going to gain powers. issue 136 is the first time that Thor is able to take Jane Foster to Asgard, his love. Remember, Jane Foster had been in the series for years, Journey into Mystery, as this doting little nurse. And when you read it back in the day, it's like, oh God, it's sort of painful.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely, Thor had fallen for her. And this was his big moment. He was finally going to take the love of his life, a mortal, up to Asgard so that she could meet Odin and become one of the gods. They could get married and do whatever they're going to do. So that's the basic premise of issue 136. So if we start at the splash page, you'll see, and by the way, you'll notice that the way that Stan Lee is doing the Asgardian speech is just beautiful. It just rolls off the tongue.
And how good his titles. How good his titles.
Yes, to become an immortal. So Thor he's finally going to get some personal happiness. There's always something going wrong. The trolls, the frost giants, and Loki. This is an issue where it's like, okay, I don't have a threat to fight. Let's take my love of my life up to Asgard. So on the next page. Boom, they appear on the Rainbow Bridge. And the first thing I love about this is you see her face. She is in total shock and like amazement and bewilderment. Okay. And that is how it should be done. Asgard should have always been portrayed like this.
Yeah.
It's a mystical place that's beyond our ken. Now, she's just a mere mortal. And look at Thor's confident face in the background. He's basically, yes.
Can I say one thing, Steve?
Sure.
Jack Kirby is always known for action, action, action. Look at the first panel. You can see tenderness in that panel. Look at Thor looking at her and her looking at him. That is a very tender panel. You can actually feel that emotion. So Kirby is not just action. He's total. That's total emotion right there. Sorry, Steve. Just wanted to say that.
Sure,
beautiful.
No problem. But yeah, as you can see, the page, the last panel, she's shocked by something. So what is it she shot back? Next page. Now.
I love this. I love this page.
She's not on Earth anymore. She is completely surrounded by larger than life characters. They just happen to be going on a little campaign against the trolls. They have one that's captured. Take a look at her body language. Okay, it's like, oh my word, this is horrific. And Thor's like, got his strong arm around her. He's like, calm down. It's just these are my compadres. These are my people. Everything is safe. And right here, Stan is laying the groundwork. He's laying the groundwork that things aren't going to go right. She's not taking it in stride. Everything she's seeing, she's overacting. She's like overreacting to things. So Thor is trying to be the calming presence, and Jane Foster is sort of not acting good. So next page. So I don't know whether you can put this into context as a lowly mortal, but this lowly mortal is meeting the All-Father. I mean, just literal, power. And I just love this little bit of dialogue when he says, "Thou must not tremble, my child, thy hand, that I may place it on mine. Mayhap thou wilt draw confidence and serenity from the strength which is mine own." Stan.
Oh, so good.
I just it rolls off the tongue. And as you can see, she's in total and utter bewilderment. She's actually meeting basically Asgard's king of the gods, So she's like, okay. So now Odin's going to have to try and give her some confidence as Thor, takes a back seat for a moment. Next page. So in a modern issue, this would be like 6 issues, but this is Stan and Jack. They're going to get right to the action. So Thor starts off with hey, here she is, and Odin's like, oh, okay, mortal female, stand forth. I shall make thine raiment fit for a goddess, but not only the raiment, for goddess shalt thou be. And then boom, right away, without asking her permission. You know, even Thor didn't say, I'm going to make you a goddess. He just said, I'm going to take you up to Asgard. So in a way, it's like, Thor, maybe you should have given her a little heads up as to what's going on. Okay.
Second thoughts on meeting the parents, huh?
Yes. It's just like, oh, okay. So, of course, Odin has no idea about the weaknesses and frailties of a mortal. I don't know how long it's been since he's seen a mortal. So he's just like, okay, boom, I'm going to give you this gift. And then Thor's like, oh, what a special moment this is. Wow. And then right into the next panel, boom, off she is. She's been given the power of flight. And as you can see, there she goes. She goes, I'm soaring into the sky, and then next page. So at first she's like, oh, I've always dreamt of this. When I was a child, I dreamt of this. But of course, she only has a mortal brain, her mind. So she begins to panic and realize she's miles up in the air. Thor has to come in and save her. And Thor's like, thou must learn the unquestioning courage of an immortal born. Next page.
Can I just, before check out just panel 4. I love that. Just the hammer coming straight at you, like Thor's on to the rescue. I mean, Kirby's just unbelievable.
Kirby drew in different zip codes. Like it was incredible. The best.
Yes. So here we have the first inkling, that something's wrong. And I just love that the other person there that says, sire, the earth female seems to have little taste for immortality, and then basically Odin says, yet she must learn to acquit herself like a goddess. There is no other way. Now, even Thor doesn't know this, but suddenly Odin has designed a test for her. Okay. Now, when you think about it, this test, she cannot pass this test. This test is unpassable. Okay. And that's where you get the first indication that maybe Odin has other plans. Maybe he doesn't want to see Thor with a mortal woman. Okay. So I love this. Look at that huge, big, fork right there. They're going to bang this, to call forth this horrific, unmentionable threat. And poor Jane Foster is going to have to run this gauntlet. Okay. It's not like, oh, you've been given the powers of flight. I want you to fly backwards and forwards. We're going to time you. Can you fly? It's like, no, we are going to put you against an amazing evil threat. Next page. So they're going to throw her in this dark room, which leads to another dimension. Okay. As you can see in the second panel, she's completely beginning to panic. And Thor's like, oh, you'll be okay. You're a goddess now. Look at the size of the shadow that's coming forward. That is just magnificent. There's this huge hand outstretched. And I remember that last panel where it's in red and black. And look at the terror in her eyes. And she's like, Thor, help me, my darling Thor. So she's lost it. Okay. She's done. Okay. Next page. So, of course, Thor nothing is going to stop Thor from getting in there. But then look at this thing. It's called the unknown. Look at the size. What was Jane Foster going to do against this? And Odin knows this. Odin knows it. So Thor comes in and he gives it a good battering and nothing's happening at first. And he has to really look at that panel there when he goes, boom. He's like huge backhand. Okay, wow. Next page. So this is where the maturity factor comes in. And I began to realize, obviously Stan had been around a long time and He knew about family dynamics, about parents, grandparents, and children, and about the way things go in the real world. And he was just equating it here, So in the top panel there, you can, Thor's like, oh, he's gone. The mallet hath driven him beyond this immortal sphere, But look at Jane Foster.
Yeah.
She's panicking. She goes, I must get out. I must leave. I can't stand no more. If I stay here, I'll go mad. And then it's a great panel. The next panel.
Yeah.
So Thor, he's got his hands on her shoulders and he's like, omnipotent one, with all due respect, art thou not causing Jane Foster to undergo more than mortal females can endure? And Odin quite calmly standing there with his arms crossed. I say thee nay. If thou would have her a goddess, then a goddess heart she must possess. And basically he's explaining that in Asgard there's no fear. So an enemy that thrives on fear cannot attack Asgard because they can't sense it. There's nothing there. So Jane Foster is going to have to get rid of all of her fear. So Thor's trying to explain, and then Jane Foster is having none of it. She's in full panic mode, and she knows that Thor's going to ask Odin for some extra help and assistance. It's like, give me some time. And she's like, no, don't ask him. I don't want it. I don't want to be a goddess. I want to get away from Asgard. It's too horrible, too unadorable. Don't you realize how mad it is? Then this is the panel that makes the whole issue. Without giving Thor or Jane Foster a chance to sing, she goes, she has more wisdom than thee, my son. And then, boom, he sends her back to Earth. I have spoken, and boom, off she's going. Look at Thor's face. No, father, no. Okay, next page. So, as we both know, all three of us know, I think, there's always been this special relationship between Thor and Odin. Sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're pissed off with each other, and they go through periods where they're not speaking, and Thor has to be punished, and, this is a prime example. And so Thor basically says here, 'tis clear to me now, thou didst plan the entire thing. It was never intended that Jane Foster should become an immortal. And then one of the guards comes forward, stand thee back, Thunder God. None may approach the presence in anger. And again, look, Odin, still calm, hands now behind his back. And he said, let him be. My son hath the right. But then Thor goes beyond. Yeah. Take a look at his mannerisms. He's his hammer's up in the air, okay? And he says, I shall endure nothing. I shall follow her. And then Odin's like, what? You dare dispute the will of Odin? And this is where Stan and Jack, they could show you just the sheer grandeur and power of Odin. Yeah. Like no one can do today. Look, Odin's face is filling everything. Just showing how small and weak Thor is compared to the All-Father. And then it continues. The sheer loudness and power is forcing him down on his knees. I always it was one of my favorite things when Odin would showcase his fury and power. Sometimes Thor would go, I can do this, and how dare you? And Odin's like, how dare you? I love that stuff. And obviously Stan and Jack, and of course, in some instances, Roy was also very good at this as well.
Oh, Steve, that
showcasing that you can get so far, but when Odin has an edict or gives an edict, if you go against it, that's what you're going to see in panel
right, and
3.
That last panel right there is incredible. Look at Thor crouched with the cape over him. Oh my God, just that panel right there is incredible. Jack Kirby could do so good. I'm just saying, unbelievable. Unbridled power. He's humbled. He's humbled. Yes. You can't mess with Odin.
The fury's over, and Odin's like, okay, he's trying to be calm. And Thor's basically saying, still do I love her, my father. though she be frail and weak, have I not the strength enow for two? Oh, enow.
Yeah. So good.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and
good.
now let's get into a little controversial aspect here. That panel would never be done today.
No.
Where he says that she's frail and weak. Because in today's world, every single female in Marvel is stronger than a man, tougher, unbendable. They've lost all of their female normalities, and now they're just basically like gung-ho men. But back in this era, you know, Stan and Jack were basically showcasing that, you know, she's a woman, okay, very emotional, you know, very easy to scare, you know. And I said, today, an editor would come in and say, oh, you can't do that because the internet would scream and everyone would get fired. All right, next page. All right, so Odin realizes that Thor is basically sinking. You know, his heart basically has just been broken right now. He was so into the fact that he was going to spend the rest of his life with Jane Foster, and in the space of 4 panels, Odin got rid of her. Boom, back to Earth. So now Odin, in his all-wiseness, is going to have to resuscitate Thor's spirit. And just how is he going to do this? So he sends him off, boom, immediately to the other side of Asgard to take his mind off Jane Foster. He's going to have to fight this creature, the unknown, again. And when he gets there, some troll is banging that little fork again. Next page. So basically, this page is, again, Odin being very clever because he's going to push Jane Foster on Dr. Kincaid. And look at Dr. Kincaid. He looks exactly like Dr. Blake. Oh, Odin, you nasty man, you. Look what you've done. He's like, okay, I can't have her pining and whining and saying, oh, God, you know. So he cleans her memory, puts her back in the hospital. She's like, oh, what am I doing here? She's there to have an interview. And there, look, there's the dashing Dr. Kincaid. So suddenly, the problem of Jane Foster is done, okay? Not only for Stan and Jack, okay? And this is something that we miss. If Stan was still around, or if Stan had been asked properly, no one ever had the chance to ask him, Stan, why did you decide to set aside Jane Foster? Why? What was the reason? We don't know that now because people were too greedy having him sign books. But can you imagine him answering that question? Where did it come from? What was the idea behind it? Why did he do it? Why had he grown tired of doing Jane Foster? Now, we don't know any of that, but needless to say, Dr. Kincaid doesn't appear next until like issue 332, and Jane Foster doesn't appear next until issue 147. So, boom, we're back to Asgard, and Odin's plan is, okay, I'm going to give something Thor to do to take his mind off this Jane Foster, but his fight isn't in it. This is really weird. You know, he's heartsick, and he's like, well, I guess if I die now, okay, you know, he's going to need a little bit of help. And take a look at panel 4. Look at that magnificent sword arm coming in. Okay. All right. Boom. And suddenly, like, Thor's like, well, wait a minute. Someone else is helping me. Oh, I'm going to help. I can't allow this person to get hurt. And we're back to Thor again. And both of them drive off this creature, the unknown. Next page.
Yeah.
So Thor's like, well, who are you? Where have you been? Now, this is very significant. This is Lady Sif.
Yeah.
And this was her first appearance in a contemporary story, because previously she'd only appeared in Tales of Asgard. Mm-hmm. Okay? So here she is. Odin has placed her right there into the scene. And Thor's like, well, I remember you when you were a little girl. And he's completely smitten with her right away. And who wouldn't be? Look, that is a goddess. That is a real female. I don't need that little whiny, whingy Jane Foster. Okay. And as you can see, suddenly that pining and whining that Thor was doing is gone. He is like, wow, the Lady Sif. And then right there in that panel right next to the end with the assistant to Odin's like, wow, this is a miracle what you've just done. You know, and Odin's like, well, it's not a miracle. I just did what needed to do, you know, to put people in the right place at the right time. So this story when I read it like 10 years ago, after, you know, living and going through life, I was just amazed by the subtlety of Stan's writing.
Oh,
yes, it's not all slam bang action. The Odin sword isn't being drawn. Galactus isn't destroyed. It's a very subtle story. Okay. Now, please, what we have to realize that we place it in context. This is January 1967. Stan was also writing Amazing Spider-Man 44, Daredevil 24, Fantastic Four 58. Okay. Tales of Suspense 85, Tales to Astonish 87. He'd only just given the Avengers up to Roy.
Yeah.
Roy had just taken over the book, and Roy had just also taken over Sergeant Fury. So, amongst all that stuff, an amazing, massive story with the Lizard, and in FF58, there's Dr. Doom and the Silver Surfer. Look at all this massive stuff going on. Huge, big stuff that he's doing. And then in this issue of 136, he's slowing the pace back. And he's like, okay, I have a mission with this issue. I happen to think, and again, this is pure speculation. I tend to think that this issue is more of a Stan issue than Jack. I think this is a more personal story where, you know, Stan had an idea where he wanted to get rid of, you know, Jane. And he used Odin's unbending omnipotence in such a beautiful and subtle way, you know, where, you know, at first his actions seem rather cruel, you know, and I remember finishing the issue and thinking, you know, I went through periods in my life when someone older than me was trying to explain something to me, and I was like, no, I don't want to listen to you. And years later, I've gone, wow, I know what they were trying to say now. I know what they were trying to do. I was young and stupid, and I was arrogant. This issue brought those thoughts back to me, and it has had an amazing effect on me for such a long time. And I would be selling it for years, and people would be like, oh, okay, Steve. Yeah, it's a quaint little story. But now with Jane Foster, actually, she's going to become a goddess. She's going to get, you know, Mjolnir. She's going to have the powers. You know, now people are searching back and going, well, what happened the first time? You know, and I know a lot of modern people who've never read anything from 1967 are going to go back and go, oh my God, what's wrong with her? Why is she acting like that? But for me, again, a single story, a tremendous amount of story resonance for me. It's a single issue. It's in between, you know, huge, big sagas. But the way Odin is treated, the way he does, that was the template for many years. Roy came in and did the same thing. Jerry Conway came in and did the same thing. And then Roy came back again and did the same thing. And then it all went up, all the way up to Walt Simonson. Walt Simonson also had in this majestic, all-wise, all-knowing, 75 steps ahead of you. Plan is getting done. You'd be like, no, that's not the way it's going to be. And Odin would be like, plans are already afoot. And at the end of the issue, you know, it built the character of Odin. And this is one little Rosetta Stones. It built the character of the All-Father, the All-Knowing. When they said the All-Knowing, there's a reason why he was called the All-Knowing. Sometimes Thor or Balder or, even Sif would be like, I don't understand what you're doing. Why are you doing this? And you'd be like, I have it planned, relax. This is something that the last couple of writers, they can't grasp it. They cannot grasp it. So you'll notice, I don't know, you'll probably notice this, Niall, that they take Odin out of the stories these days. Odin is basically, as soon as he comes back, they shuttle him off. Okay? I think even Dan Jurgens put him away for a while, and then had him off in some dimension where he was just facing Surtur for the rest of his existence. Why? Because they can't handle him. They don't know how to write him. Okay? And so what it is that the modern audience, they've never seen the real Odin. They've never seen this all-powerful Odin.
Well, it almost seemed like, though, like in the past, though, Odin was like almost, to me, it was almost like Superman's kryptonite, right? It's just, you have this all-powerful being, but then there's this one substance that drops him to his knees. And with Thor, you had this all-powerful being, right? But at the end of the day, Odin would put his foot down and drop him to his knees. And it was almost like, as powerful as Thor is, Odin would have the final say. So it's like periodically we'd come to a point where Odin puts the hammer, slams the hammer down on Thor and brings him back to a lower level of like humanity. And that's where I think today's writing might be a little off, because it's like the authority figure, that kind of lets you know your place at times, has been written out of the script.
Precisely. Now, I do know that there was one sequence, and I know this is going to horrify a lot of people here, newbies. When Jane Foster took over the Thor run, I stopped reading because I just wasn't interested. But there was one little panel that I saw where basically Jane Foster was talking down to Odin, basically saying, well, some changes had to be done, and maybe it was time that I did it. And I remember looking at the panel and I was like, why am I reading this? Why is this person hired? Why is this person being paid to write this? So instead of doing what I used to do in the old days, which is, going on to, message boards and going on to Facebook and whining and complaining.
Yeah.
I just closed the book up, put it in the bag and board and put it away. And I let Thor go away, which is astounding. But whenever I need to be refreshed, I go back to an issue like this. And whenever I'm grading, a collection comes in of Thor, it never fails. I slow my grading down and I will read those 16 pages again, and then I will grade the issue and prep it. I have never not read this issue, because it can be read in the one, and I'm refreshed. And for a moment there, I'm like, this is so good. This is so magnificent. And then the sadness hits me again, and I realize
reality.
We will never see this again. There's no one qualified, in my opinion. And again, this is purely my opinion. Some people who may be watching this may be like going, screaming and furious. I'm going to go to a convention and I'm going to tell him, please come and tell me a story that can match this in the modern era. Again, so it's a beautiful issue. It has a major resonance for me. And then there's that sadness again, because that Odin doesn't exist anymore. Even that Thor doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, no, he's long gone. That's all long gone. And
yes.
You know what I love about this book and this story, and going back and deciphering these pages, this shows you how good of a wordsmith Stan Lee was. See, I hate when people discredit him, because you're going to get the pro Kirby guys, pro blah, blah, blah. He didn't do nothing. Kirby wrote everything. No. You can see the genius of both of them. Stan's word enhancing the beautiful pages and the beautiful panels. And this is something people need to understand. Stan Lee never went to college. Like, he never took, like, this was all just reading books and stuff, and it just all came into his head. And look at the words that he wrote. Like, it's beautiful. And then with Kirby's, obviously his storytelling and his panels, they're the greatest of all time. And you can see it. It's like listening to an old song. And in its innocence, it's so beautiful. Like, each and every page, you can just see that it's so funny how comics were looked so down upon, especially at that time, and they were literally making this gold, like this gold. And another really quick thing to talk about is Vince Colletta's inks. Now, people give Vince Colletta a hard time, and yeah, I agree with a lot of stuff. But his inks on Thor were so awesome, and people don't know this, but every time when he inked Kirby on Thor, sales went up. That's something people don't know. Sales always went up. There was something about Colletta with the Kirby. It just was phenomenal. It just was. But you can see so much of Stan Lee. This is a Stan Lee story. I definitely agree. And breaking down these panels that we do in these pages, it's become so obvious how the strengths and weaknesses of each guy and how they collaborated to make a powerful thing. Because you can clearly see it here. So anybody that says Stan Lee just wrote what Kirby wanted or no, you can't. You're lying. You're lying. Stop being.
The good thing about that is that we have evidence, of course, with great magazines like the Kirby Collector that actually reprint full pages with the notes on the outsides, and you'll see, Kirby does some notes, some rough dialogue, but it was up to Stan to grab that little bit of dialogue and give it the flowery magnificence that he could. Right. And again, you're 100% right, and we have more evidence of that is because when you read a book like The New Gods, you have the grandeur there, but not quite the same flowery, beautiful speech. Okay, it's different. And again, one of my pet peeves these last 10 years is this growing audience of Stan haters. I don't know why this suddenly in this modern era I meet people who they detest Stan, and they go along and saying Stan didn't do anything. And about Steve, a year ago...
Let me stop you for one quick second, Steve. I think the two reasons why. Number one, it's become hip and cool to not like him and bash on him. It's kind of part of everybody's joining. And number two, I think I stated this before, it's because he lived longer. He got to see it in the adulation, and he was there within the Marvel universe. He was there, and now he's bigger than life, and people they Kirby should be there, and that's another reason. I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Sure, but that's definitely one of the things that's happened these last couple of years, and I've gone on. I've seen a lot of reaction, and about a year ago, I did a little post on YouTube where I was talking about this. And it was the first time that I had actually received comments from others. And I was surprised by the viciousness of some people. And the example that I brought up was the Silver Surfer series. And basically, I was explaining that John Buscema was not a plotter. You gave him what it was, and he would draw the stuff for you, okay? And the Silver Surfer is a completely different animal. It's a completely different style book. It's pure Stan, okay? But without Kirby's influence, it's a little slow in many issues. It's very quaint, it lacks a little bit of push. But the sheer wording of it is beautiful beyond words. And I use that example, and the retorts that I was getting was, well, where's the scripts? We don't see it. And I was like, well, you know that John Buscema didn't write it, so who did? Who did this work? Was it Stan, or was it some other person that's coming in? Well, I just know it's not. There's no scripts, so it doesn't exist. And that's why on one of the previous appearances of Roy, I asked about that because, Roy was privy to a lot of stuff like this. I know we're going off on a slight tangent here, but this Thor 136 showcases the melding of the two styles. Okay. When you don't have Jack, you get some of those issues of the Silver Surfer, which are, they're very romantic and very wishy-washy. Okay. But fans were like, can we have a little bit more? Can we have a little bit more action? And then you get to the New Gods and, the Fourth World Saga, and people are like, wow, Jack, bang, 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 bang. Can you slow down, Jack? And, explain things a little bit more? When they are together and when they were at their peak, they're the finest comic creative team in history, if I do say so myself.
No, I agree.
You're crazy, crazy if you don't think that. That's an absolute. That's like an absolute.
It falls in different levels,
Is that with all of our technology, with all of people's education and what they've been doing and the amount of material they can read, that imagination of those two guys, their skill set, it cannot be surpassed, and we've had some incredible writers and creators, including Roy, including Steve Englehart, Steve Gerber, Jerry Conway, and even Frank Miller and those guys. Nothing matches this team. And this little issue is a small microcosm of their brilliance. Thor 136. Beautiful, cosmic characters showcasing a classic family drama. Odin did not want his son to be mingling with a mortal. And he knew that she was going to fail, gave her an unpassable test. Thor gets angry, Odin gets furious, and then, being all wise and not being cruel, he pushes the Lady Sif right into his arms and says, you guys are going to work well together.
It's beautiful. So we would like people at home, tell us what you love. What do you think about the Kirby and Stanley connection? What do you think about this issue, the little romance? It was innocent, or is it male chauvinistic, piggish, or what? What we would love to know. And see, now you got any last words before we get out of here?
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna read that issue myself, and I think everyone else should dive into it because when Steve says read something, you're gonna love it.
Well, Steve says
I got bitten by the curse.
So we'd like to thank everybody for joining us. We got more coming up. We got more guest stars coming. A lot is going to be happening. And once again, now we thank you for the Pop XP for hosting us, because we couldn't do it without you, brother. We couldn't do it without you.
Yes, all right, and also I want to give you an extra tip of the hat for bringing the old material up and refreshing it, putting it on this new platform. It is a magnificent piece of work, and I think a lot more people are going to be able to see it now.
All right. So, Steve, get us out of here as I wield Mighty Mystic Mjolnir.
All right, guys. Boom!
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP. And over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you soon.